Staunton is a small but mighty city, and it's punching way above its weight in terms of the cultural offerings that are here.
We want to make sure that we offer things that aren't being offered by other cultural institutions here. There's lots of holes in the cultural fabric. This historic theater was a vaudeville theater. Performers would come in at the train station and they'd walk uptown, and then they would come here to the vaudeville theater and they would play for a week or whatever their tour was, and then move on to the next town by train. Kind of like circus. And Warner Brothers had an architect they would send around to all of their theaters that they acquired to turn into movie theaters. And he designed it as kind of an art moderne, art deco kind of, that was the design. And it was a big 630-seat movie theater with 2 balconies, and they started showing movies here.
The vision that we've compiled with the community input is a much humbler vision, and it's much more of a rough and ready working space. We're not looking to bring the building back to its 1930s splendor. We're looking to basically take it as it is and make it usable again. We're going to respect the history and the curves and the molding and the wonderful fixtures wherever we can, but the main goal is to just make it function again so people can come in.
Pursuing something like this in our current time and current landscape is important, because with all art, like all art, it's really based upon the situation and circumstances people are currently facing. You hear the woes and tragedies and hardships that people face, and they put it into their art.
This piano was a gift.
When the theater was built and when it was rebuilt in the 30s after a devastating fire, Staunton was a segregated city, and this was a segregated movie theater.
If you were an African American, you had to use a separate entrance, and you could only sit in the balcony. And, that's a legacy of the South.
Those things don't just disappear, and they don't necessarily lose their sting. Revisiting the past, revisiting the segregated history of the building is important for the healing process. It's important for moving the community forward, and the groups of individuals who had myriad different experiences while being in that building. It's about having stories told. It's about hearing and seeing people and honoring what they experienced.
It's important to own that history in order to be able to move forward. And in the act of moving forward, we really hope to have a space where people of color feel welcome instead of excluded. And I think there's a huge appetite to see Black culture and creativity in downtown Staunton. We have the green room, the educational space, and that's the attic. And this shows the flat floor built out over the raked floor.
When we took over this project and bringing this old theater back, this historic theater back, it was full of material that was infested with multiple types of mold. It was all covered with material, fabric, both sides. And that was partly for sound purposes. But the fabric was just infested, and we got rid of all of that. There were over 200 theater seats in here in the 2 theaters, and they were full of mold. We used a lot of volunteers. We unbolted every chair and hauled them out of here. They're very heavy. Made of metal, all those chairs, and took them to the dump. That was, by the time we were done, 7 tons worth of chairs.
The interior of the building had greatly deteriorated. There was mold and asbestos that needed to be handled before any construction could happen. So that was a $50,000 grant we got from the state, and that remediation took place in 2021 and is totally completed.
We had 1,000 square feet at the back of the building that was leaking. So when it rained, we would grow mushrooms back there. We brought in a roofer and we put a new roof on. The HVAC equipment gave out, it didn't work anymore, so we had to remove it so we could fix the roof. And removing the HVAC required closing off Market Street and getting a giant crane in here. A guy came down and looked at what our problem was, went up on the roof. He said, "You know, I used to come here when I was a kid. I think what you all are doing is an important and a good thing." So he gave us a price of right around $2,000. And then I got a bill for a little less than $800. And I called him up. I said, "Well, this can't be right. We made a deal." He said, "Nah, I'm just going to charge you what it cost me." So I had to pay a driver. We own the crane, so consider it my contribution. And we've had a number of those kinds of situations where people just said, where they went easy on the costs, where they did more than they were asked. And that's what's making this thing go forward.
We repainted and refreshed the outside. The esprit de corps that you get when you have a painting party in downtown Staunton, it's just, there's nothing like it. And many people put a lot of sweat equity into bringing back and refreshing the outside of the building. And we saw the windows as a great opportunity to communicate with the community about what the future of this building can be. We really see the building as being an opportunity to lift other cultural creators in the community. So the windows are there to support the Staunton Music Festival, Queen City Mischief and Magic, ceramics and sculpture. The building itself is really designed to be a cultural center. We're also working on the marquee, and that's nearly finished. So the next step is really to tackle the inside, and we're very close to being able to break ground on that interior construction. The vision really is about creating community through culture and creativity. So we're really trying to create a space where you can come in, meet your neighbors, get to know somebody you've never met before, while experiencing a dance, a movie, a concert, a yoga class.
It's a way to reclaim a bit of the past while remaking it into the form of a future that is inclusive, that is open, and that is replete with learning and an exchange of ideas and connecting and convening. People connecting with people.
We thought we needed to ask Staunton what Staunton thought should happen. And they focused on, the survey returns focused on 4 areas: music, film, food, and technology. And we started to form a program that would be both performance and education in those 4 areas.
And in the survey, people spoke about the kinds of educational opportunities they felt were missing in Staunton. And some of those have to do with technology, learning how to use Photoshop, how to build a website. Some of those had to do with music, wanting to learn about songwriting, wanting to learn how to play an instrument. We really want the community to feel ownership of the space. Our vision is to keep the space pretty much the way it is. We're keeping the 2 auditoriums downstairs. One will remain a movie theater, and one will become a flat floor, black box, dance hall, music space, conference room space. And then in the front of the building, we've expanded the lobby, and we'll be installing a small cafe. You'll recognize the former theater when you come in, but it's just going to be freshened and simplified and functional for a 21st century art center.
What I feel Staunton lacks in terms of more contemporary music is spaces for all these independent musicians, singer-songwriters from all around the area to have a place to play.
This is what it would look like in the event space for a music event. We have space in there for about 125, plus a stage. We can have some spoken word events. We want to have some public dancing. We have a list of probably over 100 kinds of different activities that we can potentially put in there. We already have a first-run movie theater here in town. So we want to offer more film festivals. It could be a theme. It could be the work of a particular director or an actor. One of the ideas is to do a series of films where food is a character in the film.
Culture and creativity really are the way we see the world and know the world and understand the world. And I believe the only way we can make the world a better place is by understanding and knowing it and having a vision of how it could be different. And art and culture give us that vision.
Everybody will have their own answer to the question of what's the importance of art and culture, music and literature in our lives. They're what make it worthwhile. That and our families are the things that make life worth living.